Laura's young lover, just a moody boy she kept on the side, was having yet another dramatic meltdown. And somehow, once again, I was caught in the fallout. She slid the divorce papers across the table like she was handing off her assistant's schedule. "Sign it," she said coolly. "We're just putting on a show to calm the child down." I didn't argue. I just picked up the pen and quietly signed my name, one stroke at a time. I turned to leave. The heavy carved door didn't close all the way behind me. And through the gap, I heard them, laughter spilling out, voices soaked in champagne and cruelty. Richard's temper, look at that. He actually signed. Laura's divorcing him just to keep her boytoy calm, and he didn't even blink. Then came the kicker, light, mocking, effortless. What a pushover. Laura's trained him like a pet. He does whatever she says. I didn't respond. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Don't drown in this filth," the message said. "Come be with me, Richard." I typed back a simple okay. More messages followed, but before I could read them, the sound of Laura's voice dragged me back. "You don't believe me," she purred, like a cat stretching in the sun. "Let's bet. I'll give it a month, he won't dare be even a minute late. He'll come crawling back." Someone laughed. Glasses clinked. I kept walking. Past the marble floors, the soft lights, the suffocating air of a golden cage. Laura, my wife, had fallen hard for a spoiled young artist. She'd rented him a gorgeous studio in the art district, top floor, sunlight pouring in like honey. It cost a fortune. But of course, he had standards. "Standing inside the castle she built him," he said. "I won't be the reason a marriage ends." Laura found his self-righteousness adorable. So the performance continued. At her birthday, she clung to me, smiling for the cameras, playing the role. And me. I believed it. I thought maybe, just maybe she still cared. I smiled awkwardly, trying to hold on. But then I saw her private group chat open only to Ryan. The second time she humiliated me was in front of the company. Shot down every one of my ideas with a smirk. Laughed with the board. Later, she sent that clip to Ryan. "Look how stupid he is. So pathetic." Now, she wanted a divorce. Fine. She could have it. My phone buzzed again. A message from Fiona. "Is this really happening, Richard?" "I believe it," I replied. "A gentleman's word is his bond. Once I say it, there's no turning back." That afternoon, we drove to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Laura was in a strangely cheerful mood, swaying gently to some soft jazz on the radio. The air in the car was thick with the scent of cedar and her expensive tobacco perfume. As we stepped out, a cold breeze hit us. She glanced at me, finally noticing I looked pale. "Didn't sleep, huh?" she said, raising an eyebrow. "Richard, I told you, it's all just to entertain a child." Before she could finish, something slipped from her coat. A small velvet box fell to the ground. The lid popped open with a soft click. Inside, a bold, glimmering men's diamond ring. For someone else. Her eyes flickered with something, maybe embarrassment, before she quickly snatched it up, stuffed it back into her pocket, and cleared her throat. "Let's get this over with. I've got lunch plans." Inside, the process was mechanical. "Is this a voluntary divorce?" "Yes," I nodded. "Is the relationship completely broken?" "Yes," I nodded again. The staff handed over a stamped receipt. 1 month cooling off period. Final signature required in person. Laura took the paper. And before we even left the counter, she was already snapping a picture. My phone buzzed. "Ryan. Behave. I want to see what a divorce certificate looks like tonight." I stared at the screen. My fingers went cold. And then, I deleted the conversation without hesitation. Another message came through, Fiona again. "Your flight on the 3rd is booked. Toronto to London. Don't be sad, Richard. I'll be waiting." That night, I dreamed of Laura, not the woman she is now, but the girl she used to be. Short hair. Bright eyes. A voice full of dreams. "Your hands are beautiful, Richard," she used to say. "You write like you were born for it. I bet you play the piano too." Back then, her love felt real. Back then, Her promises felt like magic. We were childhood sweethearts. We had nothing, and yet everything. Until the fire destroyed the old Koo family mansion and everything I ever had. She took me in. A broken boy. An orphan. She stayed by my hospital bed like a guardian angel. But maybe, that was the beginning of the end. She was there for me in the beginning, truly. Laura sat beside me while I relearned how to walk, how to think, how to fight. She helped me through rehabilitation, combed through financial reports with me deep into the night, and shielded me from the boardroom sharks with a ferocity that made me believe she cared. And anyone who dared whisper that I was just a man surviving off a woman, they vanished the next day, quietly, shamefully, like they'd never existed. In those suffocating years, marriage felt less like a romantic ending and more like the only exit left. After 2 decades of dependence, it was the natural conclusion to a life we'd already intertwined beyond untangling. The day I earned my EMBA and took back control of the broken Koo family business, she came rushing into my study, head held high, grinning like a queen who'd won her war. "Mr. Koo," she said, "congrats on your graduation. Shall we go make this official?" And just like that, we were married. After losing everyone I loved, I told myself, family is the only real wealth. And Laura, she was all the family I had left. So I built my world around her. Cooked for her, cared for her, remembered every tiny thing that made her life easier. In my dreams, I can still feel her warm fingertips sliding that ring onto my finger. She cupped my chin and whispered, voice low and raw, "Richard, this is what I wanted. We." But before she could finish, I woke up. And all that remained was the darkness pressing against my chest. Heavy. Crushing. Empty. Then my phone buzzed. Just once. The faint glow of the screen cut through the dark like a blade. A video message from an unknown number. I opened it. The image shook as if filmed in secret. Ryan's bare chest. That smug, youthful smirk. The messy, pristine bed. And then, her. Lying there like she hadn't slept in days, sheets tangled around her. Spent. My stomach turned. My hands trembled. Then, his voice. "Richard." I dropped the phone like it burned. In the dark, only one thing glowed, the name on the screen. Fiona. Fiona. She came into my life when everything else was falling apart. We met behind a cold, faceless screen, 2 shadows talking through a trauma forum. She was silent echo. Her avatar, an abstract painting. And for nearly 2 years, I thought she was a guy, another broken man trying to survive. In the beginning, she didn't say much. Barely a word. But I kept messaging anyway, tiny pieces of my day, sound recordings, thoughts that felt like confessions. One day, she replied. Just a Then, thank you. Eventually, we talked. Really talked. A strange kind of bond formed. Like 2 strangers on a life raft in the middle of the ocean. I started calling it a brotherhood. So when she actually called me one day, and I heard that voice, a clear, sharp woman's voice, my phone nearly fell out of my hands. I'm sorry, I stammered. I thought you were a guy, she laughed gently. It's okay. It's 3 p.m. in Toronto. Hope I'm not disturbing you. After that, I pulled away. Something about the shift, the reality of it, made me feel exposed. It wasn't until weeks later, after Laura threw the gilded divorce agreement in my face, that I found myself logging back into that forum. Fiona's message was waiting. How have you been lately? My fingers answered before I could think. Getting a divorce. Then. I think I'm about to fall into the abyss again. I had lost my parents. My home. My legacy. And now, even Laura. The last piece of the puzzle that used to be my life was about to walk away. And just when I expected silence, Fiona replied. Don't get stuck in the muck, Richard. Be with me. As her message blinked on my screen, laughter echoed from Laura's office, slicing through the quiet like knives. Richard Koo. After this divorce, he's nothing. Exactly. Just a dog Laura trained. Then I heard Laura's voice, lazy, cold, soaked in control. He'll crawl back. Always does. And when he does, I'll make sure he brings everything I ask for, both hands, no questions. I stood frozen, my hand on the door. She was just on the other side, so familiar, and now, completely foreign. I pulled out my phone. My fingertips were cold. And then I typed. Okay. Fiona didn't hesitate. Hours later, a PDF arrived in my inbox titled, Toronto Action Guide. It wasn't just a list of tasks. It was a lifeline. Deadlines, priorities, must-dos, and at the very end, a long list of tourist attractions. The final page carried a small note in her handwriting. They say the moon abroad is never as round as the one back home. But sometimes, the scenery is the same, you just have to look. And then, I'll regret it if you don't believe me. For some reason, those words cracked something open inside me. And for the first time in a long, long while, I smiled. I followed her guide. Every day I handled logistics. Every night I packed in silence. When I finally moved out of the penthouse, a message came in from Laura. Moved out? Not even a call? Are you sulking? She was in Europe. With Ryan. Then she sent a picture, the view from a luxurious terrace. This hotel's cigar lounge is amazing. Next time I'll bring you. I hovered over the block button. But with the final asset settlement still ahead, I held back. For the next 2 weeks, I moved like a machine. Cold, precise. I started liquidating the assets. Reviewed every paper Laura ever handed me. Each document felt heavier than the last silent proof of how I'd been hollowed out. Of how I'd handed over my family's legacy under the illusion of protection and love. And then, the night before our next visit to the Civil Affairs Bureau, my phone lit up again. Laura. She was back. And on the other end of the line, her voice trembled. Confused. Tense. And maybe, just maybe, for the first time in years, she sounded like someone who knew something was slipping away. Richard, did you move out? Laura's voice came through the phone like she already knew the answer. She didn't sound surprised. Just mildly amused. She let out a soft chuckle, one of those laughs that made your skin crawl when you knew the punchline was you. Richard, sometimes you really are. She paused, searching for the word. Can't you just be more of a man? Stop being so melodramatic. It's exhausting. Her tone was light, like she was discussing dinner plans, not the end of a marriage. I've told you 100 times, it's just an act. That's all this ever was. Then she shifted, her voice casual, like nothing had ever broken. Let's just see it through, okay? Go with me tomorrow, pick up the certificate. Make it official. I held the phone in silence. My fingertips were freezing. She started to say something else, another excuse, maybe. But I cut her off. Okay, I said, calm, steady, unshaken. A beat of silence. Then came the sound of someone else in the background, laughing, cheering. Loud. Mocking. I didn't stay on the line. I ended the call, opened WeChat, and sent her the Civil Affairs Bureau's hours. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Laura. She showed up fashionably late, as always draped in a sharply tailored black cashmere coat, sunglasses perched high, aura commanding. She looked like a woman who'd already moved on. And honestly, the divorce process barely took 5 minutes. Outside, as I tucked the certificate away in my jacket, I looked at her, really looked at her, and asked, Laura, do you have time later? She blinked. It was the first time I'd called her by name in years. At work, she was always President Lynn. Formal. Distant. But now, her eyes softened just a little. Curved into a smile. Sure. And for a moment, for a fleeting second, I thought maybe we could part ways like grown-ups. With a quiet nod. A respectful goodbye. Because no matter how cold or manipulative Laura had become over the last year, I never tried to erase who she once was. I still remembered the girl who stood by my hospital bed, handing me a cup of warm water when my whole world had fallen apart. I held on to that memory, the flicker of kindness, whether it was real or not. I wanted to end this story with dignity. But reality had other plans. Just before we left for the restaurant, a message popped up on Laura's phone. She smiled politely. Said she had urgent company business. Of course. Her young lover needed her. "We'll talk another time," she said breezily and walked off. That evening, the skies cracked open. Rain came down in sheets, and thunder rolled across the city like a war drum. I sat alone, curled up on the couch, every muscle tense. A flash of lightning lit up the room in a harsh, white glow. Boom. And suddenly, I was back in that fire again. Smoke. Screams. My father's eyes staring through the flames. I shook violently, hugging myself as tightly as I could, trying to keep it together. Trying not to fall apart. Then the phone rang. The background was chaos, loud music, clinking glasses, men and women shouting over one another. And through it all, Laura's voice. Contempt, sharp as a blade. Drenched in poison, aimed straight at the heart. "Richard Koo, the so-called heir, what af *****ing joke. I watched him all those years, what a pathetic mess. Couldn't even speak properly. Weak. If it weren't for that tiny scrap of Koo family wealth he had, you think I'd waste my life coddling some terrified little heir?" She laughed, a sound that should never come from a human mouth. "Want to know why I married him so early? To suck every last drop of juice from the Koo family and make it mine. As for him..." She burst out laughing again. "You get it. Ha ha ha." Boom. Another crash of thunder, this one so loud the windows rattled. Her words, the storm, the memory of that fire, they all collided inside me. And something broke. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't move. But then, my phone lit up again. "Fiona." "Richard," her voice came through steady and clear, like an anchor in the storm. "Are you crying?" I wanted to lie. Say no. But my throat was locked shut, my lungs barely working. All I could do was breathe, raggedly. She didn't wait. "Send me your location," she said, firm, unwavering. "I'm coming to find you." A new name, a new storm. Laura was officially single again. And just like blood in the water, the sharks came circling. A group of second-generation heirs and social climbers, men who either used to orbit Laura, or now wanted in, through a party. They called it celebrating new beginnings. They booked the biggest VIP suite in the city's most exclusive club. Champagne flowed, egos swelled, secrets spilled. By the end of the night, bodies were slumped across velvet couches and marble floors, some passed out, some too drunk to remember their names. Then someone, half-conscious, scrolled through their phone and suddenly sat up. "Yo, big gossip." They waved their screen around, wide-eyed. "Check trending right now. That mystery heiress from the Kim family, the one that's always been abroad running things. Fiona Kim," someone slurred, eyes barely open. "She's in Toronto. Isn't she like, never here?" "Not anymore," the other said, shoving the phone in everyone's faces. "There's a picture. She's back in a city." Gasps. Murmurs. Someone spilled their drink. "No way. Fiona Kim? The one who disappeared after her grandfather died. She never comes back. Like a ghost." "Well, she's back now," said the first. "And check this, she's not alone." They zoomed in on the photo. Two figures. Fiona, glowing with that cold, graceful intensity, and beside her, a man. Close. Intimate. "Yo, that's her boyfriend, right? She brought him back. Must be introducing him to the family." And just like that, the internet had a new obsession. And Laura Lynn. She suddenly wasn't the only power player in town anymore. "No, wait, this guy, why does he look so familiar?" Someone nudged Laura, who'd been quietly drinking in the corner, eyes fixed on her phone like it held answers to questions she didn't want to ask. "Laura, look. The guy standing next to Fiona. Doesn't he look like Richard?" Laura wasn't drunk. Just uninterested. Until she heard that name. She snatched the phone with a lazy scoff. "Richard. My ex-husband. Please." But then her eyes landed on the screen, and she froze. It was a photo, taken late at night at the VIP terminal of the airport. Under a large black umbrella, Fiona, dressed in a sleek black trench coat, the kind only women in power pull off, stood calm and commanding. And right beside her was a man. Holding the umbrella for her. Talking. Laughing. Laura's heart skipped. For a second, It looked too much like him. But pride is a stubborn thing. She shook it off with a smirk, flipping her hair. There are millions of men in the world. It's just a random guy. That Kim family heir clearly doesn't have much taste. Her friends, loyal in the way party guests are, burst out laughing. Totally. Laura's right, zero taste. But in the bathroom, where the silence couldn't be laughed over, Laura stared at her reflection hard. How could Richard possibly know Fiona Kim? The Fiona Kim. The woman at the top of the Kim empire. The one even her own mother tiptoed around. Laura bit her lip. No, it had to be a mistake. Just days ago, he'd tried to call her. Said he had something to talk about. He wouldn't move on that fast. She pulled out her phone, thumb hovering over his contact. 3:17 a.m. He's probably sleeping. But no. It doesn't matter. He always picks up. Always. She hit dial. And then, like a punch to the gut. Sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service. Back in the skies, above a sea of black clouds, I sat beside Fiona. Even now, all these years later, night flights still made me feel like I was being dragged back into the fire. Back to the night I lost everything. Back to the boy I was in that burning house. Fiona didn't speak much. She didn't need to. Her presence was enough, strong, tall, composed. The kind of woman who owned every room she walked into. From the car to the plane, she answered only when necessary, her voice clipped and cool, yet firm. You could feel her power before she even said a word. Even in the pouring rain, reporters had gathered in a frenzy outside the airport. Cameras flashing, mics flying. Miss Kim. Why the sudden return? Who's the man beside you? What's next for the Kim group? I wanted to sink into my seat, disappear completely. And just when the panic started clawing at my chest, Fiona moved. She quietly reached into her bag, pulled out a small packet of tea, and opened it. Lavender. Chamomile. A faint hint of honey. Suddenly, I was no longer on a private jet. I was back on that anonymous forum from 2 years ago, messaging someone who called herself Silent Echo. I found this tea, I'd written. It helps when I feel heavy. Want to try it? Send me your address. She had. Now, she turned to me, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. Would you like some? Before I could even answer, she was already pouring it. The cup warm in my hands, the smell familiar, comforting. I closed my eyes and took a sip. For the first time in a long time. I could breathe. And just like that, I stayed. Toronto. A new city. A new life. Fiona set me up in a stunning penthouse overlooking the Seine. But she was often gone, meetings, calls, more meetings. The apartment was beautiful, but lonely. The time difference hit me hard. So did the silence. The first week, I barely saw her. But one morning, as she sliced through her breakfast eggs with her usual elegance, she looked up and asked, Richard, what do you want to do next? I froze. Laura had never asked me that. In fact, she used to laugh when I tried to speak up. You get nervous, she'd say. You'll mess it up. Just handle the easy stuff or go play golf. Leave the real work to me. But Fiona didn't mock me. She waited. Your English needs work, she continued, matter of fact. But Toronto's Chinese business scene is thriving. You'll adjust. I know you will. I clenched my hand under the table, the years of rejection tightening around my knuckles. You really think I can do it? She gave me a quiet, knowing smile. It's never too late to learn. So, I started from scratch. Learning the language. Starting at the bottom in her company, helping manage the Chinese market. It was humbling. It was hard. But for the first time in years, I felt alive. That kind of happiness, the raw, earned kind, it made me want to share it. I logged into my old WeChat account. And then, pop, pop, pop. Messages exploded across my screen like fireworks in a midnight sky. The screen lit up, hundreds of messages pouring in at once, so fast they nearly crashed the app. At the top were frantic texts from someone on the edges of Laura's social circle. Richard, where are you? Laura's been losing her mind trying to find you, she even called me. Please, just text her back, she's furious. I stared at the screen. Laura, looking for me? The night Fiona took me away, I'd been wrecked, physically, emotionally, completely burnt out. I'd handed everything over to her team, my phone, my accounts, even the mess of the marriage. I didn't want to be found. Fiona helped me disappear, setting up a new number, encrypted accounts, my old life. Buried. Then came a voice call. Loud. Sharp. I meant to delete it, meant to ignore her like I'd been doing, but my finger slipped. And suddenly, Laura's voice exploded through the speaker. Richard. What the hell are you doing? Where the hell have you been? Do you still want to attend next week's gala or get your anniversary gift or not? I didn't flinch. I breathed in, slowly, and said the words she never thought I'd say so plainly. Laura. We're divorced. Silence. The kind that hits like a dropped glass. Sharp. Sudden. She hadn't expected that. She never expected me to interrupt her. Without another word, I ended the call. But Laura wasn't done. The moment the screen went dark, my phone buzzed again, then again, and again. One furious message after another. Richard, that was all an act, I told you that 100 times. Are you really this dense? Send me your new number now. Add me back on WeChat, do you want to remarry me or not? Her. She was still trying to command the story like she always had, with her sharp voice and sharper rules. But this time, I didn't hesitate. I pressed delete contact. Then I opened my list and wiped out every connection tied to her, her friends, her business partners, all of them. One tap after another. Gone. And just like that, silence. Not the kind that aches, but the kind that heals. Later that day, walking past a boutique sports store, I remembered Fiona's voice, how she'd once casually mentioned her morning workouts. So I stepped inside and bought a high-end yoga mat and a soft fascia ball. Something told me she'd been using the living room more lately. When I reached the apartment, I barely touched the door, and it opened. Fiona stood there, flushed from her workout, dressed in a black training top and shorts, her skin glistening with sweat. The scent of warm air, citrus, and something soft lingered around her. And nestled in her arms was a tiny Maltese puppy, white and trembling like a snowball. My heart stuttered. A puppy? I breathed, stunned. The bag slipped from my hand. She smiled, brushing a lock of damp hair from her cheek. It's for you, she said gently. A gift. A gift, for me. Laura had always been allergic to dogs, strict rule. No fur, no pets, no joy like this. I'd given up the idea of ever having one again. But here it was, this warm, soft creature nuzzling into my palm like it had always belonged there. You brought it back and didn't even tell me? I asked. She laughed lightly, placing the mat and fascia ball on the counter. I thought you could use these too. I sank into the couch, cradling the puppy like it was something sacred. It reminded me of a time long ago, a golden retriever, a birthday, my father's proud smile. That was another life, but this moment, it healed something. When I looked up, Fiona was fiddling with the fascia ball, pressing it against her shoulder, her movements playful and relaxed. Her hair clung to her forehead, her lips curled in a soft grin. I said her name without thinking. Fiona. Then instinctively added, you can use that to roll out your traps. I froze mid-sentence. She turned, slowly, a mischievous glint in her eye. Fiona, I started again, but the space between us evaporated. In one swift, heated moment, she leaned in, her body still warm from the workout, and kissed me. It was possessive, like a claim she'd been holding back. The puppy yelped and leapt off the couch. Then, a second kiss, this one slower, deeper. Her breath trembled near my ear. Did you forget something important, Richard? I couldn't think. Couldn't speak. And then came the question that flipped my world over. Should we go to the registry today, or tomorrow? Even as the kiss left me dazed, I muttered something about going tomorrow. But Fiona didn't wait. By noon the next day, we were at the registry, standing side by side. The clerk stamped the forms, one firm, final mark. We walked out with the papers in hand and a strange lightness in my chest I hadn't felt in years. We weren't just putting the past behind us. We were building something new. As we drove back, the sun filtering softly through the glass, my phone buzzed again. An unfamiliar Toronto number. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. And on the other end, Laura's voice, sharp and venom-laced, cut through the calm. "So, you finally ran off to Toronto." She called again. Same number. Same venom. Same sandpaper voice. "So you really ran off to play nurse for your sick little friend, huh?" It had been a month. And somehow, she still believed she owned me. I took in the crisp Parisian air, let it settle in my lungs like armor, and spoke as calmly as I could. "Laura, stop harassing me." "Harassing?" she snapped. "You think you have a life without me?" Her words were sharp enough to draw blood. "Clinging to your fragile little friend like some pathetic crutch." There was no love left in her voice. Just bitterness. Contempt. And then, a dangerous turn. "You were mine in life, and you'll be mine in death." Her voice dropped to a low growl. "Get back here. Now. Or else." Beep. I ended the call. Cold and final. Seconds later, a message lit up my screen. "Got your wings now, huh? Go rot with your sick friend then." And just like that, I saw her for who she truly was. Not the woman I once fell for, but someone cruel, toxic, and shameless. She had flaunted her affair during our marriage like a trophy, all while dragging me along in some twisted performance. Now, she had the audacity to act betrayed. It was never about love. It was about control. And I had been too blind, too loyal, too young to see it. That night, after weeks of silence, the internet came alive like wildfire. Pings. DMs, screenshots. Everyone suddenly had questions. "Richard, what's going on with you and President Lin?" One photo in particular started making the rounds. Laura and Ryan, wrapped around each other like a magazine spread, drenched in warm light and curated chemistry. No caption. Just a heart emoji. Subtle, but loud enough to declare everything. I didn't respond with words. Just a single, quiet post. A photo of our divorce certificate. No filters. No caption. Just truth. Within minutes, my university friends' group chat exploded. "Bro, finally. You saw the light. Laura was always poison, man. Remember how she'd always bring up your PTSD in public like it was entertainment? You couldn't even breathe when she was around." And just like that, the past came into focus. All the signs I had ignored. All the moments I had flinched, smiled, stayed silent, thinking love meant endurance. It didn't. It meant freedom. And now, I had it. Fiona's hand brushed mine, steady, warm. I looked out at the soft golden hour spilling across the sky. For the first time in years. I exhaled. And it didn't hurt. Later that evening, Fiona returned to the apartment, graceful as ever, with her assistant close behind, quietly rolling in two sleek, elegant Rimowa suitcases. "Pack your things," she said calmly, her voice soft but decisive. "We're heading back to the country." I blinked, trying to process. "Back, already? The marriage paperwork needs to be notarized there," she continued, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "And I want to introduce you to my grandmother, and a few important family members." A beat passed. I almost asked, "So soon? So formal?" But the words caught in my throat. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. Laura had never brought me into her real life. Never let me close enough to see behind the curtain. But Fiona. Fiona looked right at me. Her gaze steady, her voice unwavering yet tender. "Richard," she said, "you're the most important person to me. Of course I want my family to meet you." And in that moment, something warm bloomed in my chest. It wasn't just affection, it was peace. The kind that comes from finally being seen. Finally being chosen. Fiona had some business to attend to in a city first, so that became our first stop. Her approach was low-key, effortless. She took my hand like she'd done it 1,000 times. Our fingers laced naturally as her assistant and a couple of discreet bodyguards flanked us. We moved quietly through the VIP lane, no noise, no fuss, just presence. During that time, Through scattered conversations and my own quiet observations, I began to understand the woman beside me more clearly. Fiona wasn't just successful, she was legendary. The Kim family's inheritance war a decade ago had dominated business headlines. Everyone thought one of the old guards would take over. But then came Fiona, fresh out of a prestigious international business school, calmly stepping into the chaos. And somehow, she didn't just survive the storm, she tamed it. Under her, the Kim family empire didn't just grow. It soared. I'd heard her name in passing, back when I was too young to care about stock indexes or legacy. Then she'd moved her operations abroad, and she slipped off my radar. Now, I was walking beside her. After we arrived in a city, she changed into a sharp business outfit and headed straight for the family's central office. I stayed behind at the hotel, continuing my English lessons and slowly getting acquainted with the company's grassroots operations, doing what I could to prepare for the future she was building, and now inviting me into. That night, just as I wrapped up my study session, a message lit up my phone. I had some clothes sent for you to choose from. Time's tight, so they estimated your size, they should fit. Tomorrow I'll introduce you to some important family friends. Don't be nervous. My heart skipped. When I stepped into the suite's living room, I froze. It looked like a scene from a luxury fashion editorial, dozens of carefully curated pieces laid out like art. With the stylist's help, I tried everything. Tweaked pairings. Perfected the look. In the mirror, I saw someone new. Someone calm. Confident. Quietly elegant. Someone Laura had never let me be. We went late into the night with fittings. In the end, I chose a navy blue wool blend suit, clean, timeless, dignified. Only after settling on it did I realize. Fiona still hadn't come back. She hadn't set foot in a city in over a decade, and now she was personally handling every thread of the family empire. I could only imagine how much was weighing on her shoulders. The next evening arrived quickly. The stylist gave me a crisp, simple hairstyle, a light touch on my complexion. When I looked in the mirror this time, the transformation was startling. I wasn't the man in Laura's shadow anymore. I wasn't the afterthought. Just as I finished, another message from Fiona arrived. The driver is waiting for you at the door. Short. Clear. Perfectly timed. That night, the scent of Osman thus filled the air as the car slipped through a narrow alley and stopped in front of an old wrought-iron gate laced with vines. This was Fiona's grandmother's estate. Inside, a family banquet was already underway. But just as I reached for the car door, my phone buzzed. Laura. I stared at the screen. Same name. Same toxicity. I declined the call. She tried again. I declined harder and added her to my blacklist. Finally, as the car rolled to a stop by the courtyard's main entrance, I stepped out into the golden glow of lantern light, the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses in the distance. Then, something stopped me. In the shadow of the side corridor, Laura, wearing a bold rose-red dress, pacing, phone to ear, clearly frustrated she couldn't reach me. I didn't flinch. I walked right past her. But she caught sight of me, and her mask shattered. She stormed forward, high heels loud against the stone path, voice sharp as a blade. Richard, what are you doing here? Her eyes narrowed. Didn't you say you were done with me? She glanced toward the party, fake smile curling. Oh, I see. Heard about the banquet and decided to crash. Pathetic. She extended her arm with a condescending tilt of the head. Fine. Let's go in together. Smile. Make it look believable. And for the first time, I didn't feel small in front of her. I didn't feel anything. Because I wasn't here to play pretend anymore. I'll smooth things over with my mom and sister for you. The absurdity of her offer hit me like a slap. I didn't say a word. Just took a slow, deliberate breath, and stepped past her. But Laura wasn't done. She caught up in a rush, grabbed my arm, and leaned in with a forced, hushed whisper. Stop right there. Are you deaf? Today's a private event. Close family, important clients. Don't make a scene. Just smile, act polite, and try not to embarrass yourself. She tried to link her arm with mine like old times, like nothing had changed. Come on, she urged. Hold my arm. Let others see. That's when I stopped. Cold. I turned to face her, my voice steady, my gaze like ice. Laura. I'm not here for you. It stung. I could see it in her eyes. She recoiled, like I'd slapped her pride. Oh, please, she snapped. What's with the attitude? If it weren't for me, you wouldn't even be here. But before her tirade could finish, the grand doors to the banquet hall opened with a soft creak. Golden light spilled out into the corridor, warm and inviting. Inside, the hall buzzed with chatter and laughter. A cozy, elegant scene, traditional decor, clinking glasses, a sense of legacy in the air. But all eyes weren't on the matriarch at the head of the table. Not on the modest mother. Not even on the poised older sister seated beside her. No, every gaze was pulled toward the woman standing effortlessly by the main seat's armrest. Fiona Kim. In a cream cashmere sweater and sleek black pencil skirt, hair swept back in a loose bun, she looked like a painting come to life. Calm, composed, and completely in her element. She was chatting with two elderly ladies. They laughed, nodded, and leaned in toward her, eyes full of respect and warmth. That's her, Laura hissed bitterly beside me, clinging to my arm. That's the boss of our biggest client, Fiona Kim. The Kim family's golden child. What are you gawking for? Go inside. Wait for her. Richard. One word. Soft. Yet it rang through the hall like a bell. Fiona's voice. She'd spotted me. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Faces turned, eyes blinked in surprise. The air seemed to pause as she gracefully moved through the parted crowd, her gaze locked on mine. She stopped just a step away. Then, quietly, she reached for my hand. In front of everyone. Fiona's hand in mine. Her presence steady. Her touch warm. Her voice clear as day. Grandmother. Mom. Uncles. Elders. She glanced at each face, then turned back to me. Let me properly introduce someone. She looked at me with a soft gleam in her eyes, confident, kind, and unshakably sure. This is Richard. She didn't rush a word. My husband. A hush swept across the room like a gust of wind. She added calmly, we just got our marriage certificate. For a beat, no one moved. And then, the Kim matriarch stood up with a burst of joy, her face lighting up like spring. Oh, my Fiona. What beautiful news. You've told me about him before. She waved us forward, her eyes full of approval. Richard. Come, let me take a look at you. I always said Fiona had the best taste, steady, calm, just like you. And just like that, the hall erupted in celebration. Laughter. Cheers. Glasses raised. Everyone came forward with congratulations. It was a storm of warmth and acceptance. But not everywhere. Off to the side, standing frozen in the shadows, Laura looked pale. Her shock had passed, now, only raw humiliation remained. Her mother had stopped mid-sip, the teacup suspended in the air. Her smile froze, eyes fixed on her daughter with silent disappointment. Her sister shot Laura a sharp look, then turned away in quiet shame. In the sea of joy, the Lin family sat in uncomfortable silence, cold, still, and small. Fiona took me back to the capital afterward. We handled the official notarization, picked up the certificate, all the formal steps. But it was the little things that made it real. Cooking together that morning. Folding laundry while sunlight streamed in. Sharing stories. She opened up, slowly. Told me her parents had passed when she was young. Her little brother, gone in a tragic accident at just 8 years old. She had family, but they were distant. Formal. Never close. She'd only had one relationship. He betrayed her. Since then, she'd built walls. Grown tired of love. Tired of men. She joined the support group just to stay connected with something real, something that felt human. She confessed, a bit shyly, that at first, it was my profile picture. I looked a little like her late brother. Maybe that's what made her stop and read my words. 2 weeks after we registered the marriage, I still hadn't made a move. Maybe it was uncertainty. Maybe I just didn't know how. At night, we shared the bed, but there was space between us. Until one evening, that space grew smaller. Her touches were hesitant at first. Her kiss, though, it was different. Warm. Sure. Real. When I felt her lips on mine, I knew it wasn't out of sympathy. It was something else. Something blooming. She paused, lost in thought. What are you thinking about? I asked gently. She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned in again. Her kisses deepened. Stayed longer. I just want to give you more time, she whispered, her voice low and husky, to adjust. I felt something stir in my chest, strong, certain, unshakable. Fiona, I said. I think I like you. I didn't wait for her reply. I pulled her close. And kissed her like I meant it. That night, we didn't sleep until dawn. Things weren't going well for Laura. Not since the banquet. Her mother had scolded her in private. Her sister barely spoke. And that night, everything she thought she had control over, it all slipped through her fingers. And I wasn't there to catch her anymore. Her influence in the company was slipping, almost completely gone. But instead of reflecting, she turned her resentment on me. She cozied up with that so-called artist, but behind the scenes, she was scheming. She paid a ghostwriter to smear Fiona's name, painting her as a mistress, me as some social climber living off her wealth. And soon, under Fiona's rare financial interviews, the comments started trickling in. Well, the business queen hiding a scandal. Isn't she supposed to be single? Third party spotted, forceful acquisition. Fiona didn't flinch. She never did. But me. It lodged in my throat like glass. That day, Fiona was busy at the company, handling urgent affairs and finalizing her return to Toronto. I was at home, quietly packing. Until I heard shouting outside the apartment window. Shrill. Familiar. Too familiar. My husband Richard and I, childhood sweetheart. 20 years of love, destroyed by a mistress. Photos were being shoved in people's faces. Here. Look. The deleted airport shots, Fiona shielding him like a guilty lover. She pretended to be a patient just to get close to my husband. My blood boiled. Laura. She had brought a mob of influencers and blocked off the entrance to our building, camera crews rolling, her face powdered to perfection, playing the devastated wife. Tears. Rage. All a show. I want justice, she screamed into the lens. Kim family money controls everything, but I want the truth. That was it. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed the evidence, every last shred of it, and stormed downstairs. The door flung open. Her eyes widened, half startled, half smug. Richard, she started. But I was already walking forward. Thud. The stack of papers hit her square in the face, exploding into a storm of scattered truth. Laura, I said, my voice shaking with fury, take a good look at what you've become. I bent down, picked up a few pages, and threw them back at her feet. Explicit screenshots. Her and Ryan boasting, flirting, shameless. This is your real story. Don't you dare call us childhood sweethearts. You don't deserve that title. Then I pulled out my phone, turned the volume to full, and played the venomous voicemail she left when drunk. Coup family heir. What a joke. Watching him struggle like a child who couldn't even speak. I was sick of it. If not for that last bit of money they had. Her face went ghostly white. The mask of heartbreak melted. All that was left was panic. Turn it off. Turn it off, she shrieked, lunging for my phone. Security arrived. They cleared the crowd and erased the livestream. But the damage was done. What the world really latched onto wasn't her fake sob story. It was the truth, the texts, the receipts, the arrogance. Ryan's carefully crafted artist image shattered overnight. Turns out, he was nothing more than a scammer in designer shoes, living in Fiona's house, spending Laura's money, and chasing other heiresses with a fake last name. Fiona didn't say much. She didn't need to. The Kim Group's legal and PR teams dropped a statement like a guillotine. Effective immediately, all business ties with Laura Lynn and her affiliated ventures are terminated. We reserve the right to pursue legal action for slander and defamation. That was the end of Laura's business career. Days later, her mother called me. Her voice was tired. Soft. almost begging. Richard, we didn't raise her right. For the sake of our families, can't you? Auntie, I said, gently but firmly, the Lin family helped mine when I was young. I'll always remember that kindness. But over the years, as they wished, I've folded what was left of the Koo family into the Lin group. That debt is paid. I owe you nothing. I owe Laura nothing. And that was the end of that. Fiona and I were finally ready to leave for Toronto. At the airport, the drizzle cast a silver sheen across the tarmac. The air was cool, clean, like something had lifted. Then, commotion. She appeared. Laura. Soaked, disheveled, heels broken, hair matted to her face. That elegant aura she once wore like a crown, completely gone. Richard. Richard, she screamed, stumbling across the marble floor until she crashed at my feet. Desperate. Wild-eyed. Please don't go, please, okay? Please don't leave me like this. Fiona stood a few steps behind, arms crossed, eyes cold. The crowd had their phones out again. Another scandal in motion. Laura clung to my suitcase handle, voice cracking. Listen to me, it was all a misunderstanding. That voicemail? Ryan recorded it, I didn't even know. I was drunk. I didn't mean a word of it. You weren't annoying, God, I loved you. The marriage, it was real. I wanted forever with you. The divorce. It was fake. Just a tactic. Please believe me, Richard, it was all just one big misunderstanding. But this time, I wasn't listening. Yeah, I looked down at her, calm, steady. It's always someone else's fault, isn't it? Someone else pushed you onto that bed. Someone else made you say those cruel, humiliating things. It's always the darkness. Never you. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Laura Lynn, you've always believed I couldn't live without you. That I couldn't live without the Lynn family name stamped behind me. That's why you mocked me, crushed me, turned my pain into a way to feel powerful, in a life where you've always felt small. The truth was, Laura was never the center of the Lynn empire. Her older sister ran the family with an iron grip, and Laura, well, she was just a spoiled daughter drowning in wealth she didn't earn. Her only real accomplishment was taking in a broken, helpless version of me and keeping me there like some kind of pet. I looked at her one last time. Let go, Laura, I said, my voice tired but firm. For whatever's left of what we once were, don't make this uglier than it has to be. Her hand trembled on the suitcase handle. And then, she let go. No more screaming. No more bargaining. Just a long, defeated sigh. I turned and walked away, no hesitation. Her sobs followed me for a few seconds, but were quickly swallowed by the sounds of the airport. Announcements. Footsteps. Life moving on. I didn't see Laura again for a long time. I didn't go looking for her either. But once in a while, through the grapevine of mutual friends, I'd hear things. Turns out Ryan wasn't who she thought he was either. The man she betrayed me for? He had a whole collection of lovers, rich heirs he'd seduced and scammed. When the truth broke, they all came for him, demanding every penny back. As for Laura, the fall was brutal. Her reckless decisions tanked her parents' business interests. The Lynn family cut her off, completely. Cards frozen. Properties seized. She was kicked out of the mansion, out of the name, out of the life she took for granted. Rumor had it, the same woman who once blew thousands on handbags, now stood in grocery aisles debating whether she could afford wine. She rented a cheap apartment. She bought discount brands. She became exactly what she used to sneer at. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. From the bottom. I worked every low-level job at the company, one by one. Earned respect. Led projects. My English got better. I stopped fumbling for words and started making deals. That first spring festival in Toronto, Fiona didn't take me to Chinatown or a crowded celebration. Instead, she took me to Provence. Winter had stripped the lavender fields bare, but the land had a different kind of beauty, raw, quiet, vast. We rode horses through the cold wind, feeling alive again. At night, we stayed in an old stone farmhouse. A fire crackled, the stars above seemed endless. Wrapped in wool blankets, we sat on the terrace in silence. And then she whispered, "Every star here once lit the path of someone who loved us. And they'll light the road ahead, too." I leaned into her shoulder, heart warm. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. Fiona once told me about her younger brother, Samuel. He was 10 years younger, and he used to call himself a little prince from another planet, sent to make her smile. But life was cruel. He lost both parents young. One day, when he was 8, he asked Fiona to make him a cup of tea. She smiled and said, "Tea is for adults. You can have water." She never imagined that would be their last conversation. Scheming relatives soon overwhelmed her. And in the chaos, she lost him forever. That cup of tea was never made. That goodbye was never said. Years later, a stranger sent her a friend request on a trauma support forum. The profile picture looked eerily like Samuel. The username read, "The boat has sailed beyond 1,000 peaks. Hello. May I add you as a friend? I'd like to chat. The weather's nice today. Hope you're feeling good. Another day has passed. I still hope we can talk." Fiona said he was noisy, too cheerful. But his words landed like a stone in still water. Eventually, she added him. And day by day, that stranger shared little moments. A blooming flower. An old love song. Latte art on a quiet afternoon. All so ordinary. And yet, each post chipped away at the ice that had formed around her heart. She began to wonder. Was this really just a stranger? Or had Samuel sent her someone, to guide her back toward the light? Back then, "The boat has sailed beyond 1,000 peaks" was someone else's husband. Off limits. Distant. Just a name on a screen. Now. Fiona turned to me, her voice soft, trembling. And for the first time, I could hear it. Not sadness. But something deeper. Hope. She stood in the middle of the quiet studio, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're my husband." Then she walked to the window, eyes searching the sky until they landed on the brightest star. And in a voice that felt like a sigh wrapped in longing, she asked, "Do you think Samuel really sent me the most precious gift in the world? Do you think he forgave me for not being the sister he deserved?" I stepped forward and gently took her hand, cool from the night air, and pulled her into my arms. I kissed the single tear that finally broke free from her lashes. "He never blamed you," I said quietly. "He was always your little prince, the one who wanted nothing more than to protect his big sister. He became an angel, and that angel saved me. Brought me to you. So I could protect you for him, so you'd never have to be alone again." Her body trembled against mine, not from fear, but from the weight of everything she'd carried for so long. And then, she held me tighter. Like she didn't want to just be near me, she wanted to be part of me. Her voice broke in the crook of my neck, soft and certain. "Richard. You are the light I waited for in the dark. I love you so, so much. Maybe the greatest tragedy in life is giving your whole heart to someone who never deserved it. But the greatest blessing is surviving it long enough to find the one who does." We stayed like that, wrapped in each other, as the starlight gently poured through the window. And far above, it felt like the forever 8-year-old little prince was sitting on the edge of the moon, smiling down at his sister. Because now, she finally had someone to hold her hand through the night.